Hi and welcome back to the channel. I found this Tag Heuer 2000 locally in a shop dealing with house clearances. I'm not sure how old these models are, but I'd guess it's around 20 years old, and it does look in reasonable condition for its age. In the past, I've found that a common point of failure with these models can be the crown threads, but this one seems fine. I've also found that the nylon gasket for the glass crystal can sometimes fail with these. Both of these failures would allow moisture to penetrate the watch, and you see evidence of this with pitting on the dial or hands. The dial and hands on this piece, well, they look absolutely fine, and so I'm quite confident that none of these failures have occurred. Now the watch came as you see it now, unboxed, no papers, no indication of any service history, and so today I'm going to strip it completely to pieces, inspect all the movement parts, clean them, then reassemble, lubricate and calibrate the timing. And speaking of timing, let's take a quick look at what it's doing at the moment. Placing the watch on my timer machine, I can see that it's not really that bad at all. It's gaining a little bit, but not a crazy amount. The amplitude is lower than what I would have liked, but it seems to be running reasonably well. So enough talk, let's get this movement out of the case and strip down, and naturally we start by removing the case back. Removing the case back reveals the movement, which is an ETA 2824 automatic with a calendar mechanism under the dial. Now, if possible, the first thing I like to do before removing an automatic movement from its case is to detach the oscillating weight. Now, this is secured with a single screw at its hub. Next, the crown has to be released, and to do this with an ETA 2824, it's wise to pull the crown out to the handset position and then use a 1.2mm flat-bladed screwdriver to depress the bolt or setting lever, just enough for the crown and stem to be released. And now at this stage it is possible to remove the movement, but first I like to remove the plastic movement ring, which is secured to the movement with 2 screws. And with the screws removed, I can lift away the ring, and then I can take the movement out of the case. And I can now place the crown and stem back into the movement in order to align the hands to make it easier to remove them without damage. To remove the second hand, I'm using a hand removal tool that I made. If you're interested to know how I did this, I have a series of videos, and I've linked them in the description below. I still prefer to use regular hand levers to remove the hour and minute hands. I usually use a thin, clear polybag to protect the dial when doing this, but today I've decided to test these purpose-made cards from Horatec. And to be honest, they're a bit of a faff to get into position. The polybag method is far simpler, but I can see why these would provide more protection with certain kinds of watch dials. With the hands removed, I can now detach the dial. The dial has 2 sliding bolts, and I use a purpose-made tool from Horatec to release them. And with the bolts released, I can lift away the dial. There is a spacer between the dial and movement to prevent the calendar dial from fouling the main dial, and this just lifts away. And now I can remove some of the dial side components, starting with the hour wheel. And next I can remove the calendar driving works. And now I can lift away the calendar ring. Another cover plate is removed, which exposes the rest of the MotionWorks and the calendar rapid set wheel, all of which can now just be lifted away. Now, turning the movement over, I can detach the automatic works assembly, which is secured with these two blued screws. And I'll disassemble the automatic works later, but for now I want to release any power from the mainsprings so that I can remove the ratchet and crown wheels. And now I can remove the click piece and its spring, and you may notice quite a stain under the crown wheel caused by old lubricant which has formed into a kind of a paste, and over time this will have worn deeper into the barrel bridge, which I'm now removing, and it would have needed to be replaced. With the barrel bridge removed, I can now remove the barrel and the balance hack. But moving on, I can now remove the balance assembly and the pallets. And take note that on many occasions the balance hack may have become stuck to the underside of this barrel bridge, and being unaware of this could cause it to get lost. So if you don't see it in position like this, then just take a look under the barrel bridge. It'll most likely be there. And with that done, the train bridge can now be removed. Removing the train bridge exposes the train of wheels, which can now all be lifted away. Once again, turning the movement over, I can now remove the keyless work components. And finally, I can now disassemble the automatic works. And with that done, the movement is finally fully stripped down. I can clean the parts off camera, and then we'll move on to reassembly and lubrication. When I reassemble a watch movement, the first job I like to get out of the way is to place the mainspring back into the barrel. And because this is an automatic watch, the mainspring has a slipping action when fully wound so that it doesn't lock up. Now here I'm applying some braking grease to the barrel wall in order to control this slipping action. Now, I've been asked before what kind of grease I use for this purpose, and here it is. It's P125. Now, apply a small amount around the circumference of the barrel wall, being careful not to allow any to be applied to the bottom of the barrel. I've applied a very fine film of a different kind of grease to the length of the mainspring, and I can now use my mainspring winder tool to insert the mainspring into the barrel. And with that done, I can refit the barrel arbor and secure the lid. Now I'm ready to start reassembling the barrel and the train of wheels to the main watch plate. And with all the wheels in position, I can secure them with the train wheel bridge and the barrel bridge. Before the barrel bridge can be fitted, it is important not to forget that balance hack. Now here you can see the permanent stain that's been left behind by the old contaminated lubricant under the crown wheel. No real harm has been done as far as I can see. It will not really affect the watch performance, but if it was left longer, the cut may have been deeper, and then the story would have been very different. Now with that done, I can now lubricate the pivot and the arbor friction points. Now it's time to reassemble the barrel bridge components, the clickworks and the crown and ratchet wheels. I'm using Mobius 9104 for the high friction points, 9101 for the low friction points, such as escape wheel pivots. 9010 is used for the balance end stones, 941 for the pallet stones, 9504 for very high friction points such as the cannon wheel and various Keyless Works components. And with the barrel bridge components refitted, I can now fit the pallets. Now, turning the movement over, I can start by lubricating the lower train wheel pivots. And now I can refit the Keyless Works components, applying lubrication as appropriate. Now, when fitting the sliding clutch here, it's important to make sure that the balance hack is located within the groove of the sliding clutch before the stem is fitted. And now I can assemble the MotionWorks and the calendar components. Turning the movement over once again, I can now fit the balance assembly and clean and lubricate the upper and lower Incabloc end stones. And now onto the automatic works, and I start by treating the reversing wheels with Lubetta V105. And I can assemble the automatic bridge now. The dial bolts are pulled out and the hour wheel is placed back into position. The dial spacer is refitted, and now the dial can be secured back to the movement. And now the hands have been refitted. I'm taking care to make sure that they are aligned so that the date does change over when they reach the 12 o'clock position. And the movement can now be refitted back to the case. I also calibrated the timing, and after some fine-tuning, a respectable result was achieved. And now the back can be refitted, and we can call the job done. I reckon this watch is going to be a nice little daily driver for years to come. Thanks for watching.